It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in the quiet suburbs of Crestwood, a day that promised nothing more than routine, coffee, and the familiar hum of everyday life. Yet, beneath the calm veneer, an undercurrent of tension was about to swell into a maelstrom of secrets and revelations. Greg Marshall had always considered himself a rational man. A dedicated husband and a hard-working project manager at a burgeoning tech firm, he prided himself on keeping his life as transparent as possible. But lately, an inexplicable restlessness had begun to plague him, a gnawing suspicion that perhaps not all was as it seemed in his perfectly curated world. It was during one of his late-night work sessions that he stumbled upon something that would irrevocably change his perspective. While browsing through old emails on his office computer, a repository of project updates, receipts, and various newsletters, Greg's attention was snagged by an innocuous email notification from a cloud storage service. The subject line read, "Vacation Album, Amelia's Memories." His wife, Amelia Marshall, had recently returned from a week-long getaway to the picturesque coast of Amalfi, Italy. With its promise of sun-drenched cliffs and vibrant Mediterranean hues, the vacation was meant to be a well-deserved respite from their routine. But as Greg clicked open the album, a cold shiver ran down his spine. The digital gallery unfolded with a series of carefully composed snapshots, candid shots of the couple laughing over shared gelato, sunlit strolls along ancient cobblestone alleys, and quiet moments of intimacy by the azure sea. Yet, interspersed among these idyllic images was one that did not quite fit. In one photograph, taken at dusk outside a quaint seaside trattoria, Amelia was seen laughing, a full, genuine laugh, with a man whose face was partially hidden by the warm glow of a setting sun. The image was fleeting, almost accidental, but it was enough to ignite a spark of doubt in Greg's mind. For days following the discovery, Greg's mind raced with questions. Who was that stranger? Had Amelia been hiding something from him? The thought gnawed at him relentlessly. His love for Amelia had always been rooted in trust and open communication, yet here he was, tormented by the possibility of betrayal. With every passing hour, the photograph assumed a life of its own in his imagination, a silent accusation of infidelity. That very evening, as the family sat down for dinner in their minimalist, art-filled living room, Greg's thoughts were far away. Amelia, radiant and carefree, recounted her travel experiences with enthusiasm. Her eyes sparkled as she described the local cuisine and the breathtaking sunsets. But beneath her warm smiles, there lay a subtle hint of distraction, a fleeting moment when her gaze drifted to her phone, as if wrestling with an unspoken secret. Greg's heart pounded with every syllable she uttered. Was it possible that the idyllic holiday she had so lovingly recounted was not as it seemed? Later that night, as Amelia retired early with a whispered, "Good night, love," Greg remained awake, fixated on the glowing screen of his computer. He initiated a covert investigation, one that started with a careful retracing of the digital footprints left behind. Each click and scroll deepened his conviction. The mysterious man in the photo appeared in other images as well, a glimpse here, a shadow there. Yet, for every question that surfaced, there seemed to be no clear answer. In the quiet solitude of his study, Greg's thoughts began to spiral into a mix of suspicion and heartbreak. Had the woman he loved become entangled in a clandestine affair? Or was there a more innocent explanation, a chance encounter during an otherwise beautiful vacation? His mind oscillated between trust and doubt, unwilling to settle on any definitive conclusion. The burden of uncertainty weighed on him heavily, and sleep became a distant memory as he pieced together the fragments of a narrative he hadn't signed up to understand. Unbeknownst to him, Amelia was battling her own internal demons. The vacation, intended as a brief escape from their daily struggles, had evolved into an emotional labyrinth. In her haste to capture every beautiful moment, she had meticulously snapped dozens of photos. Yet, in the flurry of packing, memories, and the whirlwind of travel, she had forgotten one critical detail: to delete the album that now held the power to upend her life. Each photograph, frozen in time, was a testament not only to moments of joy but also to choices made in a moment of vulnerability, a vulnerability that could be misinterpreted in the harsh light of suspicion. The tension of that fateful night lingered like a thick fog over the Marshall household. While the digital evidence lay dormant on a server miles away, its implications were set to unravel the very fabric of trust and loyalty that had long defined their marriage. As dawn approached, Greg wrestled with the looming decision: confront Amelia with his newfound suspicions, or continue to let uncertainty fester in the silence of the night. And so, with the weight of the unanswered questions pressing down on him, Greg was left at a precipice, a point of no return, where one wrong move could shatter years of shared memories. The seemingly innocuous vacation photos had become an unforeseen trigger, propelling him into a spiraling investigation that promised more than mere revelations. It was the beginning of a journey into the depths of hidden truths, where every image held the potential to rewrite the narrative of his life. The morning light crept in through the blinds of the Marshall residence, casting a deceptive calm over a household teetering on the brink of an emotional storm. Greg awoke with a mind that refused the solace of sleep. The revelations from the previous night, those elusive images of Amelia with the mysterious man, had churned in his thoughts like dark, relentless waves. With a deep, conflicted breath, he resolved that the truth, no matter how painful, needed to be unearthed. Before the first cup of coffee was poured, Greg embarked on a covert digital investigation. He meticulously combed through social media profiles, online albums, and tagged photos, each click a step deeper into an unknown labyrinth of secrets. The more he searched, the more his initial suspicion began to morph into a tangled web of questions. Every comment, every like, and every shadowed profile seemed to hint at connections he'd never imagined existed. Amelia, on her part, maintained an air of effortless grace. At breakfast, she chatted cheerfully about her favorite gelato flavors and the cobblestone streets of Amalfi, all while her eyes occasionally betrayed a spark of distraction. Greg's heart pounded with each fleeting glance, each subtle change in her tone. The lingering warmth of the vacation was rapidly cooling into something uncertain, a prelude to an impending confrontation he both dreaded and demanded. Determined to gather more evidence before confronting Amelia, Greg delved into the details of the vacation itinerary. He reached out to a friend from work, Dan, who had recently returned from a similar Italian sojourn. Dan's account of his holiday was laced with laughter and camaraderie, yet when Greg inquired about any mention of a local guide or an unexpected rendezvous, Dan's smile faltered. "I can't recall anything odd," Dan admitted hesitantly. "But then again, I was too busy enjoying the scenery." Sometimes, things happen on holiday that you never really question until later. Dan's cryptic words only fueled Greg's suspicion further. Later that day, while Amelia busied herself with daily errands, Greg revisited the digital album on his computer. With each image he scrutinized, the familiar tranquility of the Mediterranean coast began to warp into an intricate tapestry of blurred lines and misinterpreted moments. There was one particular image, a snapshot of a moonlit dinner at the seaside, where Amelia and the unknown man were almost too intimately close. Their laughter, shared over a flickering candle, suggested more than a mere chance encounter. Yet, as Greg rewatched the image, a gnawing doubt began to emerge: could there be another side to this story that he hadn't yet considered? In the midst of his inner turmoil, Greg's investigation took an unexpected turn. A chance email notification popped up, a message sent by an unfamiliar address. The subject line simply read, "We need to talk." Caught off guard, he hesitated before clicking it open. The email was succinct and unsettling, urging him to look beyond the surface and promising that the truth was far more convoluted than it appeared. The sender did not identify themselves, nor did they offer any context. Instead, the email was accompanied by an attachment, a series of photos that looked strikingly similar to the ones from Amelia's vacation album, but with subtle, disconcerting differences. In one, the same man was captured in a completely different setting, his face partially obscured by shadows, his posture ambiguous. In another, Amelia appeared almost unrecognizable, her demeanor more subdued, as if burdened by an unseen weight. Now, with two competing narratives vying for his attention, Greg felt as if he were standing on the edge of a precipice. The anonymous email not only deepened the mystery but also sowed seeds of uncertainty about the very nature of the images he'd discovered. Was it possible that the vacation photos were merely pieces of a larger, intricately designed puzzle? The message, cryptic yet urgent, hinted that there were forces at play beyond a simple tale of infidelity. Haunted by these revelations, Greg decided to seek a different perspective. He arranged a meeting with an old college friend, Marcus, who had since become an expert in digital forensics. Marcus had a reputation for his uncanny ability to uncover hidden metadata and trace digital footprints. Over cups of strong coffee in a dimly lit, quiet cafe, Greg shared his predicament, showing Marcus both the vacation album and the mysterious email attachment. Marcus's eyes narrowed as he examined the images on his laptop screen. "There's something off about these files," he murmured, his fingers dancing over the keyboard. After several minutes of intense scrutiny, he finally leaned back, his expression grave. "Greg, these photos aren't what they seem at first glance. There's been some digital manipulation here, some details that have been altered, perhaps deliberately. The metadata on this attachment indicates it wasn't taken on vacation at all, but rather on a completely different date and location. I'm not saying it's evidence of an affair yet, but you need to be cautious. There's someone out there who's playing a dangerous game." Armed with this new information, Greg's inner turmoil deepened. The puzzle was far more complex than he'd ever anticipated. The idea that Amelia might be involved in a secret affair began to crumble, replaced by the unsettling possibility that someone with the means and motive, was setting him up. Was it a malicious attempt to fracture his trust in Amelia? Or was there a deeper, more intricate web of deception at play? Torn between loyalty and suspicion, Greg now stood at a crossroads. The mysterious email, the manipulated digital evidence, and the enigmatic figure from the vacation photos all pointed to a scenario that defied easy explanation. In the silent moments that followed his meeting with Marcus, he wrestled with a dawning realization: in the world of digital footprints and carefully curated images, nothing was ever as it seemed. The delicate balance of trust in his marriage was crumbling under the weight of ambiguous evidence and shadowy interventions. As dusk began to settle over Crestwood, Greg sat alone in his study, his mind swirling with uncertainty and dread. Every new piece of information added another layer of complexity to a story that he had once believed was simple. The question now was not just whether Amelia had been unfaithful, but who else was involved in this intricate play of deception, and why would anyone want to destabilize the sanctity of their life together? In the days that followed his unsettling discoveries, Greg's life became a relentless chase for answers. The world he once knew had dissolved into a maze of encrypted files, anonymized emails, and half-remembered moments that now seemed laced with treachery. Every creak in the house, every unexpected ring of the telephone, was a potential harbinger of further secrets. One rainy evening, as the relentless patter of raindrops created an almost hypnotic rhythm against the window panes, Greg resolved to confront the matter head-on. With Marcus's ominous warning echoing in his ears, he meticulously retraced every digital footprint related to the vacation album. His heart hammered as he uncovered multiple layers of metadata alterations, confirming that the images in question had been tampered with. But there was an anomaly: the hidden timestamps on some photos contradicted the timeline Amelia had described. The evidence seemed to point toward a setup, a deliberate orchestration to make him doubt his wife's fidelity. Unable to sleep, Greg retreated to the quiet solitude of his study, where the only light came from his computer screen. He opened a new email account and created a pseudonym, determined to anonymously contact a reputable online forum dedicated to digital sleuthing. Over the course of several hours, he posted his findings, describing every detail from the manipulated metadata to the mysterious email with the attachment. His post quickly attracted responses from amateur detectives, ex-hackers, and digital forensics enthusiasts. The consensus was chilling: someone had deliberately planted false evidence to cast suspicion on Amelia. But why? Amelia's behavior in the days following her return from vacation had grown increasingly erratic. Once vivacious and full of stories, her laughter was now tinged with an uncharacteristic reserve. Greg recalled the moment at breakfast when her eyes seemed to betray a hidden anxiety, as if she were concealing an overwhelming burden. Yet, every time he mustered the courage to broach the subject, her words were measured, her tone apologetic yet evasive. She explained away her distracted demeanor as the lingering effects of jet lag and the overwhelming rush of travel memories. But now, as Greg sifted through the anonymous tips online, he wondered if she was the unwitting victim of a grander scheme. The online forum led him to an individual known only as Spectre, a digital investigator with a reputation for unraveling complex online ruses. Greg exchanged private messages with Spectre, who confirmed suspicions that the tampered photos were part of an elaborate frame-up. According to Spectre's analysis, the digital alterations bore the hallmarks of a sophisticated hacker, someone with intimate knowledge of digital forensics and an agenda to fracture a seemingly stable marriage. The mystery deepened when Spectre mentioned a recurring signature embedded in the images, a subtle watermark that appeared in the corner of several photos. This watermark, almost imperceptible at first glance, hinted at an individual with a personal vendetta or a hidden affiliation. Determined to unearth the identity behind this signature, Greg arranged a clandestine meeting with Spectre in a nondescript diner on the outskirts of town. In a quiet booth away from prying eyes, Spectre, cloaked in the anonymity of a hoodie and dark glasses, revealed his findings. "I've been tracking digital misdirections like these for years," he confided in a low, cautious tone. "The watermark in these photos is not random, it's a calling card. I've seen it before in cases where personal grudges were involved. This isn't a random hacker, it's someone with a purpose." Spectre's revelation sent shivers down Greg's spine. Who could harbor such malice? His mind raced back over the past few months, scrutinizing every interaction with friends, colleagues, and even neighbors. A name began to crystallize, a former business partner of his, Vincent, with whom he had a bitter falling out over a failed project. Vincent had once been envious of Greg's success and had expressed his disdain in ways that bordered on vindictiveness. Could Vincent have orchestrated such a malicious scheme? The idea was as disturbing as it was plausible. Yet, another possibility emerged from the murk of suspicion. What if the orchestrator was someone from Amelia's past, a figure she had once confided in, perhaps even loved? The thought unsettled Greg further. As he revisited old conversations and mementos, he recalled fleeting references to a close friend Amelia had once mentioned, a friend who had vanished from her life abruptly under mysterious circumstances. Was it possible that this ghost from her past had re-emerged, driven by jealousy or revenge? Haunted by these possibilities, Greg's internal struggle intensified. Every new detail seemed to weave a thicker web of deception, where his own emotions were caught in a crossfire between misplaced trust and orchestrated betrayal. The digital evidence, manipulated images, and anonymous messages all pointed to a scenario where neither he nor Amelia was entirely innocent. Instead, they were pawns in a dangerous game, with invisible hands steering events toward a catastrophic revelation. As midnight approached and the diner emptied around them, Spectre's final words lingered in Greg's mind: "Be cautious, Greg. Sometimes, the people closest to us can be the ones most capable of orchestrating our downfall, often without our knowing." With those cryptic words, Spectre melted back into the night, leaving Greg alone with a mind swirling in questions and dread. In that moment, the perfect veneer of their marriage had been irrevocably shattered. The evidence, though manipulated, was a testament to the existence of a conspiracy far larger than a simple affair. The truth was obscured by layers of digital trickery and personal vendettas, a truth that threatened to redefine everything Greg thought he knew about loyalty, love, and the very nature of trust. The tension that had been steadily coiling in Greg's chest reached a breaking point one humid evening. After days of sleepless nights and furtive investigations, he could no longer live with the uncertainty gnawing at his soul. Determined to unearth the truth, Greg resolved to confront Amelia. No more half-truths, no more hidden glances. This confrontation, he hoped, would either dispel the dark cloud of suspicion or force open the door to secrets that had long been locked away. That evening, the Marshall home was heavy with an unspoken dread. The gentle hum of the air conditioner and the soft clink of cutlery at dinner were drowned out by the thundering questions in Greg's mind. As Amelia cleared the table after a quiet supper, he could no longer contain the storm inside him. "Amelia, we need to talk," Greg began, his voice steadier than he felt. The familiar warmth in her eyes dimmed slightly as she set down a dish. There was a pause, a moment pregnant with the weight of unspoken words, before she nodded, silently inviting him to sit in the living room where a soft lamp cast long, somber shadows on the walls. Greg started slowly, recounting the discovery of the vacation album and the cryptic email that had sent his thoughts spiraling. "I saw photos, Amelia, photos that show you with a man I don't recognize. And then there's this email with manipulated images. I have to know, what is really going on?" His voice trembled between anger and desperation. Amelia's eyes widened with a mixture of shock and sorrow. For a moment, silence reigned as she struggled with the avalanche of memories. Finally, she exhaled slowly. "Greg, I've been trying to tell you, but I didn't know how," she confessed. Her voice was soft and laden with regret. "There's something I've kept hidden, something that has nothing to do with a betrayal of our marriage, but I realize now that my silence has only fueled your doubts." Amelia revealed that during her vacation in Italy, she had encountered an unexpected figure from her past, a friend who had once been very close, someone who had disappeared from her life without explanation years ago. This friend, Matteo, had reached out to her while she was in Amalfi. He was charismatic and persuasive, claiming to have urgent news that connected both their lives in unforeseen ways. Initially, Amelia had been intrigued but cautious. However, Matteo's persistence eventually led her to agree to a brief, discreet meeting. According to Amelia, Matteo's motive was not romance but desperation. He had uncovered incriminating information about a mutual acquaintance, a man who, as it turned out, had a bitter grudge against both her and Greg. Before she could fully process the gravity of the information, Matteo vanished again into the labyrinth of Italy's winding streets, leaving her with a collection of photos he had taken during their brief encounter. In the chaos of travel and exhaustion, Amelia had inadvertently uploaded these images to her vacation album, images that were now being manipulated and used against her. Greg's eyes widened in disbelief. The man in the photo, the one who had ignited the fires of suspicion, was indeed Matteo. But what shocked him further was the realization that Matteo's presence wasn't a spark for passion, it was a warning. "Are you saying," Greg stammered, "that someone is using these images to set us against each other?" Amelia nodded, tears glistening. "I didn't know how to explain it. I was scared, and I thought that by keeping it quiet, I could protect our life from this hidden enemy. I didn't delete the photos because I hoped I could eventually tell you the whole story, about how Matteo told me that someone wanted to ruin us, to make us doubt everything we've built." The revelation sent a shockwave through Greg's mind. The suspicion that had begun as a whisper was now overpowered by a chilling possibility, a deliberate, malicious scheme orchestrated by an unknown adversary. The pieces of the puzzle, Vincent's old vendettas, the manipulated digital evidence, and the anonymous emails, started to align. Could it be that someone was orchestrating this elaborate frame-up to tear their lives apart? Amelia's voice broke as she continued, "I'm so sorry for not coming clean sooner. I thought I could handle it on my own, that I could protect us both. But now we have to face it together." For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the steady tick of the clock on the wall, marking the passing seconds of their fragile truce. Greg's heart was a battleground between fury and empathy, a storm of betrayal tempered by a deep-rooted love that had sustained their years together. Slowly, the initial shock gave way to a cautious determination. "We need to find out who is behind this," he said, his voice resolute. "We can't let someone tear us apart by using our trust against us." Amelia reached out, her hand trembling as it found his. In that fragile, tentative gesture of unity, they silently vowed to confront this new enemy, together. The confrontation, painful and raw as it was, had opened a door to the truth. Now, the next step would be to unmask the puppet master behind this digital deception, before their lives were irreparably shattered by secrets and lies. The days following their heart-to-heart were a whirlwind of cautious collaboration and mounting determination. With their union reinforced by the shared resolve to uncover the mastermind, Greg and Amelia began a joint investigation that wove together the strands of digital clues, personal histories, and long-buried resentments. The dark specter of deceit that had loomed over their marriage was now being confronted head-on. The first breakthrough came when Greg, revisiting the metadata of the manipulated images with the help of Marcus, discovered an overlooked detail, a recurring digital signature embedded in the files that pointed toward a specific software tool. This wasn't the handiwork of a random hacker, it was the signature of someone who had intimate knowledge of advanced digital forensics. Cross-referencing this detail with online forums and previous cases, the couple's investigation led them back to Vincent, the bitter ex-business partner who had nursed grudges ever since their failed project. Vincent had long been envious of Greg's success and had never fully recovered from the humiliation of their public fallout. Emboldened by the evidence, Greg arranged a discreet meeting with a trusted contact in law enforcement who specialized in cyber crimes. Under the guise of a routine inquiry, they managed to secure a warrant to access Vincent's communications and digital transactions. What they uncovered was startling: encrypted messages, suspicious financial transfers, and a trail that linked Vincent to a network of digital mercenaries. It became clear that Vincent had not acted alone. He had hired an expert to tamper with the digital evidence, to craft a narrative that would sow discord in Greg's personal life. His motive was as cold as it was calculated: to dismantle the life he resented, piece by piece. In parallel, Amelia retraced her steps during her vacation and reconnected with local contacts in Amalfi. A small, discreet cafe provided her with vital information. The owner recalled a nervous young man who had been seen with Matteo around the time of Amelia's meeting. This young man, it turned out, was associated with a notorious group known for their expertise in cyber manipulation. Their activities, shrouded in secrecy, were rumored to be commissioned by individuals with personal vendettas. Piecing together the fragments, it emerged that Vincent had reached out to these specialists, hiring them to fabricate the digital evidence that had now torn at the fabric of their lives. The mounting evidence forced Vincent's hand. One rainy afternoon, as thunder rumbled in the distance much like the storm raging in their hearts, Vincent was confronted. A nondescript meeting in a deserted parking lot turned into an explosive showdown. In the dim light, with a mix of defiance and regret, Vincent finally admitted to his scheme. He confessed that he had felt robbed of everything: his reputation, his pride, and even his chance at redemption, and he had decided that tearing down Greg's perfect life was the only way to salvage his shattered self-worth. Yet, even as Vincent's confession spilled out in broken sentences, it became evident that the plan was larger than one man's revenge. The hired hacker, working behind the scenes, had begun to operate independently, leaving breadcrumbs that could expose the full extent of the digital sabotage. This revelation further complicated the narrative, suggesting that the orchestrated frame-up was only the tip of a much more sinister iceberg. With Vincent in custody and the truth emerging from the digital shadows, Greg and Amelia found themselves at a crossroads. The betrayal they had feared was not a testament to their personal failings but rather the result of a calculated assault by an external enemy. In the aftermath of these revelations, the couple began to rebuild, not just their trust in each other, but also their understanding of the fragility of digital identities in a world where information could be weaponized with devastating precision. In the quiet moments that followed the storm of confrontation and legal battles, Greg and Amelia sat side by side, reflecting on the ordeal. They realized that their journey had taken them into the dark underbelly of human malice and technological manipulation, but it had also led them back to each other. Their renewed commitment was forged in fire, tempered by the knowledge that true intimacy was built on openness, even when faced with the harshest of betrayals. Together, they resolved to move forward, stronger and more vigilant. They agreed to dismantle the digital maze that had nearly consumed their lives, ensuring that no hidden enemy could ever exploit their vulnerabilities again. And as they embraced the uncertain future, they carried with them the hard-won lesson that in a world of shifting pixels and manipulated truths, the most resilient bond was the one built on unwavering trust and shared courage. In the months and years after the storm of digital treachery and emotional upheaval, life for Greg and Amelia took on a new, unexpected rhythm, a rhythm marked not by fear or suspicion, but by resilience, growth, and a renewed commitment to each other. The tumultuous events that had once threatened to tear their lives apart eventually became the catalyst for transformation, both individually and as a couple. Once the legal battles were behind them and Vincent's network had been dismantled, the couple found themselves with a chance to rebuild the shattered remnants of trust. It was not an easy road. The ghost of deception, embedded in every pixel of manipulated memory, occasionally resurfaced in quiet moments of introspection. However, every challenge they faced only served to solidify the deep bond they had reaffirmed during that dark period. Recognizing the vulnerability that technology had exposed in their lives, Greg and Amelia resolved to take proactive steps to safeguard their future. Together, they immersed themselves in learning about digital security and privacy, a realm that had once been an instrument of their undoing. Greg enrolled in specialized courses, determined to understand the mechanics behind cyber manipulation, while Amelia attended seminars on digital rights and personal data protection. Over time, they became advocates for digital literacy, sharing their story at community centers and local colleges, urging others to remain vigilant in an increasingly interconnected world. Their newfound expertise sparked an entrepreneurial spirit in the couple. Combining Greg's analytical acumen with Amelia's empathetic communication skills, they launched a small consultancy aimed at helping families and small businesses protect their digital footprints. The venture was more than a business, it was a mission to transform personal adversity into a resource for others. Clients appreciated the couple's blend of technical insight and personal experience, and soon their consultancy became known not only for its effective solutions but also for its inspiring message, that even in the face of betrayal and deception, trust could be rebuilt and lives could be reclaimed. As the years passed, the Marshall household became a beacon of quiet strength. The living room that had once borne witness to heated confrontations and heart-wrenching confessions slowly transformed into a space of shared creativity and hope. Family photos began to fill the walls, not just vacation snapshots, but images capturing everyday moments, sunlit mornings in a cozy garden, laughter during impromptu kitchen dance-offs, and quiet evenings spent reading side by side. Each image, unfiltered and genuine, was a testament to their journey from doubt to mutual understanding. The couple also discovered new passions that helped to heal the lingering scars of the past. Amelia took up photography, a deliberate choice to reclaim the art form that had once become a source of unintended pain. With every click of her camera, she captured the world with a fresh perspective, framing beauty in its raw, unmanipulated form. Her photographs, later exhibited in local galleries, resonated with many who had experienced their own battles with trust and vulnerability. Greg, meanwhile, found solace in writing. His reflective essays and journal entries, initially scribbled during the long nights of investigation, evolved into a series of thoughtful articles on the intersection of technology, trust, and human relationships. These writings garnered a modest following online, as readers from around the world connected with his honest portrayal of the digital age's double-edged sword. Together, they also nurtured new traditions that celebrated transparency and open communication. Weekly Truth Nights became a cherished ritual, a time when they would sit down without distractions to share their thoughts, dreams, and even lingering fears. These evenings, filled with soft music and the aroma of herbal tea, were their personal sanctuary, a reaffirmation that vulnerability was not a weakness but a vital ingredient in the recipe for a resilient partnership. In time, their story began to take on a life of its own, transcending the pain of the past to become a narrative of hope and renewal. Neighbors and friends spoke of the Marshalls with admiration, a couple who had weathered an unimaginable storm and emerged not as victims, but as architects of their own destiny. Their experience sparked conversations about the ethics of digital manipulation and the importance of cybersecurity, influencing local policies and inspiring community workshops that bridged technology with personal empowerment. As autumn settled in one crisp, clear evening years later, Greg and Amelia sat on their porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The golden light painted the sky in hues that mirrored the warmth they now felt, a love that had been tested by fire and tempered into something enduring. In that quiet moment, they acknowledged that while the past could never be erased, it had paved the way for a future where trust was not taken for granted but earned every day. Their journey, with all its twists and turns, had ultimately reaffirmed a simple yet profound truth, that in a world of fleeting digital images and ephemeral connections, the deepest bonds are those that are nurtured with honesty, courage, and unwavering commitment. And so, with hearts open and spirits renewed, Greg and Amelia stepped confidently into a future built not on the ruins of deceit, but on the foundation of a love that had been reborn.